Kideaters vs. Zoo BoyZ, Chapter 6, Part A, Meeting Mission Command. Now, our boys are a year older than they were when they went to Zoo Island, and they are 2 years older than when they broke into the Forever Happy amusement park, although John Minor did not commit that crime with the other 3 boys. When you're 15, 14, 13, and 12, you naturally jump between all kinds of different factors from without and as well as from within. Those years are arguably the most developmental years of everyone's lives. It was no different for our boys. We find them suddenly going through some brutal progressive changes. Hormonally, physically, emotionally, morally, even financially, while also being forced to invade the foreign soil of Zoo Island. This was no World War, no Vietnam or Pearl Harbor, but to these 4 children, it was as serious as any other full-on military invasion. The strategic situation they found themselves in now was as complicated, confusing, and combative as they had only witnessed through motion picture releases from Hollywood. Hansen wasn't just unleashing the boys from jail, he was also plunging them into what could be a suicide mission. Mr. John Hansen was gracious enough to not send the boys alone, although after hearing their testimony and how they outwitted his octopus on that last visit to Zoo Island, he was confident they would do a better job than his own professional scouts, survivalists, animal tamers, and biologists. As planned, the boys were transferred under extreme high security measures, as if they were linked to some part of major mob or one of the organized criminal empires. They were shackled, not just on their wrists, but on their ankles as well. They even had black hoods placed over their head to keep their final destination completely confidential. When they arrived at the secret location of John Hansen's secret lair, they were dragged out of the black suburban SUV and forced to their knees. It was there, in a position only an assassin would use, they were released from their bonds. Each boy greatly appreciated being uncuffed, finally, and the feeling of being set free for the first time in a year. One of Hansen's assigned henchmen rapidly pulled the hood off their heads. It was almost like a dream, almost too hard to believe, almost incomprehensible. The reality was that they were still captives, still convicts, still restricted from being able to go home and live out an average, normal life like any other boy their age. Most teenagers were over-concerned about the pimples and blemishes on their face. Many teenagers were fighting acne, growing pains, and broken hearts from a crush that wanted nothing to do with them. However, right here, right now, these 4 young men were only beginning to discern the blasphemous, immoral principles that they were forced to face. They had no idea how deep-seated John Hansen's plot ran. Still on their knees, side by side in a parking lot, the smell of fresh air and wind hitting their face gave some sense of ease to their mind. Their adolescent eyes were still trying to adjust to the sudden brightness. The transition took much longer than they desired. In the distance, they could only make out a slender silhouette, a dark vertical line. Soon they realized it was a tall, thin figure coming toward them. Their minds rapidly fired images from several science fiction movies they caught by sneaking into the local movie theater. Any ease they were offered didn't last nearly long enough. Within seconds, the image was standing right in front of them, too close for comfort. This wasn't the first over-authoritative obstacle they met. However, there was something even more, what is the word? Something like a dominatrix? Strangely taboo, but also enticing. There was a hint of allure and almost a strange sense of arousal that was somewhat gratifying in nature, although they couldn't put their finger on it. They knew this was some type of temptress. Soon they would learn that it was their assigned chaperone and guardian. Another grinding voice shouted at the boys, "This is Hightower, your new master!" The unusually tall figure blocked out the sunlight. That alone gave their eyes an opportunity to recover, but their palms were sweaty, like clams grasping a grain of sand. Back home, the parents worried about their children's safety, but in this situation, destination unknown, the boys feared for their own security. Hightower growled, "Get up, boys, come with me." They were being led, but also had armed officers not too far behind them. David whispered to his partners, "I think he's really a woman." The other three boys noticed that the whisper went unnoticed by their captors, so Jeremy spoke next, a little softer than Dave. As he let out his words, just a breath only his friends heard him state, "She just dresses like a man." Ronnie's words were almost too low to hear. So do I. But you think she may be a good leader?" John said softly, "I guess we'll have to find out." He swallowed hard as Dave spoke again. Hardly even a whisper anymore, he announced to his friends, "Dogs, she ain't leading shit. We leading her. This is the whole point, the whole purpose. We gotta lead this operation. Their boss picked us." Sometimes to see the best, you gotta understand the worst. Others would claim Dave always stuck out like a sore thumb, but the truth was that Dave was the healed finger in the bunch. So many teens his age were metaphorically like black and blue or paralyzed appendages, not functioning well at all. Dave had such a hard upbringing that he was willing to take on dangerous tasks others would never dream of confronting. Often, Dave's careless, fearless demeanor came across as idiotic, foolish, or even cocky, when in reality, the fact of the matter was that he was raised to endure, survive, overcome, and conquer whatever was thrown at him. Jeremy's voice remained soft, stuttering, and timid. But we'll need to cooperation. We'll need their cooperation." His words were warped and hard for him to form. John shrugged his shoulders, trying to shake off the doubt and the unmistakable, uneasy feeling surrounding him. He knew nothing was within their control. His voice was just above a whisper. "Guys, like I said, I guess we'll see. We better stay quiet for now. We have the right to remain silent." Although he told his friends to remain silent, he himself went on talking. "Oh, also, by the way, Ronnie, this is an opportunity to take back Tina. Bet she misses her family, and, if you get caught with her, just like if you would have been caught with her while we were in jail, well, we'd be dead. Remember, Tina was an extremely tiny tiger, smaller than Ronnie's pinky finger. He took her from Zoo Island on their last trip there, masking his secret for a full year. She still hadn't grown and was very calm in the dark recesses of his pocket. His brain entertained what John said. He knew if an adult discovered her, they'd take her, do scientific experiments on her, and throw him and his friends in solitary confinement. Ronnie's mouth opened. Unknowingly, he released his thoughts. Yeah, who knows what they'll do to poor Tina. I gotta get her back. Ron was hurt and sad, but if he would be honest with himself, he knew John was right. He fought with the fact that even if he took her back to her original home, she'd still be taken. Part of their chore was to capture animals there and put them into the hands of who knows who. Jeremy put his hand on Jeremy's shoulder. He assured him, Dude, it sucks. I know, but it's time to take her back. Return her home where she belongs. She belongs to her mother. Jeremy heard his own words, then added, So do we. This is mucked up, man. Without putting his hand in the pocket containing his secret pet, for fear their captors would think he was pulling out a weapon, Ronnie just gave it a soft, delicate pat. His three friends admired how Tina was so small Ronnie never got caught with her, even when they were thoroughly searched while being booked or admitted, let alone when they left. During other searches while in jail, Ronnie always hid her in a place the guards never checked. As Sergeant Slater finished turning the boys over to Hightower, he yelled with his hard A northeastern accent, Don't disregard any instructions yous guys are told. Just do as you're told. Dave spoke up. Using his full-on outdoor voice, he demanded, Where are you taking us now? Slater's answer came back with even more velocity. This is on a need-to-know basis, and you don't need to know. Slater nodded to Hightower. He added, This task force gonna take over. Slater was referring to their chaperone, this new task force taking over. The fully armed adult stepped toward Sergeant Slater, and the other armed minions retreated. The name Hightower perfectly fit the physical description of this new character. The boys dwarfed in size, while this high towering tyrant stood directly in front of them. The kids' emotional and mental status shrunk as well when the supposed guardian spoke with a tone just as harsh and cold as Slater. In spite of this, at the same time, the voice somehow carried a form of reassurance, almost like a parent giving loving discipline. Direction and instruction flowed out of the mouth of this new forerunner. Out of the sea of jargon, one key word stood out to the boys. That specific word was classified. Their minds were full of questions, but without asking, they knew the answer for everything was going to be that same word, classified. Classified rang in their heads over and over again and again. The reply for every single question and request was going to be that same during the time they served here. They could clearly imagine it being taken to the extreme. If they asked, Can I go to the bathroom? Classified. Where is the bathroom? Classified. Can I please have some toilet paper? Classified. Will you please let me wipe my ass? Classified. They knew, without even asking, this hard-nosed adult would chant, and the boys would soon join in unison. Classified, classified, classified! The boys' eyes were fixated on Hightower, not only because they were coerced to. They took mental notes of sleek curves indicative of the female anatomy, past the strong-willed voice, beyond the utility belt and bulletproof vest. The young man's minds uncovered and revealed to them Hightower's figure. Masculine? Yes. Brawny? No question. Stern stance? No doubt. But time after time, with a few hip thrusts and side view glances, the hormonally fueled juveniles unveiled the undeniable fact that Hightower was definitely a full-grown, completely developed woman. She was exposed. As she addressed them, they couldn't help but to continually admire her with their minds, almost undressing her with the power of their hidden adolescent hormonal charge. Her voice was loud, concrete, demanding, and yet, every so often, it cracked into a higher range than most men the boys knew. They absorbed her words as she spoke to them. I am Major Hightower. You can call me Major. The boys thought, we got a major problem. Now, I split up Chapter 6 into a Part A and Part B because I didn't want it to be too long of a video or reading. So now, on to Chapter 6, Part B.